Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast, and in your car or your truck as you're driving along, or put in those earbuds and close your eyes and lean back and listen to this on public transport. In this essay, I'd like to talk about how third world migration ruins my quality of life, or has ruined. It's not at this very minute, but I'm talking about instances and incidents and occasions when it has. Now, we live in an area that's 97% white, so and it's an area adjoining a large national park forest. So this is not something that third world migrants tend to gravitate towards in terms of the area and the natural environment and so on. But I want to select a number of instances. One of them was recent. There's a house up the road, probably, I don't know, 7, 8 houses or something further up, and it's a rental property, and the government, and I don't know which branch of government, but the government rents it out every now and again and puts third world migrants, whether they're refugees or alleged asylum seekers or what they are, they're always brown or black. And there's been a few instances, sometimes we're only there for a day or two, so suggesting that it's a temporary arrangement. Other times they're there for a few weeks, but they've never been there for more than, I don't know, a month or two, I suppose, at the outside. Now, I think these people were Pacific Islanders, I'm thinking, just looking at them, but must be from a very rural area of the Pacific Islands. But they came in a larger family unit, so there must have been 10 of them or something, and they took over the street. The street that they live out on the front porch. They don't seem to want to be in the house, which is how they would have lived in their in their Pacific Islanders on the equator. It's hot all year round. Yeah, so you live outside, and typically their dwellings are quite small, and so they tend to live outside. Now they've been given quite a large house with facilities and amenities and flushing toilets and lights to switch. They've got all the stuff there, but that doesn't mean their habits change. They exist out on the porch of the front lawn. Now they urinate and defecate on the front lawn without thinking twice. And if you've been to third world countries, they've got sort of outdoor toilets, and the idea that you just squat and defecate over a hole is just how it's done there. In fact, typically you're just defecating anywhere. They might put in a hole in the ground for those effete Westerners. but generally, so these people come from places where there's no such thing as sewerage or flushing toilets, and if there is, they must have forgotten how to use them. They talk very loudly to each other. They because in an equatorial climate, you tend to go to bed at 1 in the morning, but you don't get up until 10 or 11. So that's kind of how it works. And so that's what these people, they're still doing that. So that at 1, 2 in the morning, they're still shouting very loudly at each other because everybody in the village would be up and where they come from. But the rest of us here are all trying to get a good night's sleep while these people are home. Now you can hear them from a fucking mile away. They're so noisy. They'll also be playing music, and now during the day, because they're not working or doing it during the day, one of them has found some sort of go-kart, motorized go-kart thing, but it makes a hell of a racket. And they go up and down the street. They're taking over. The street belongs to them. They've declared it as their territory. If you want to cross their territory, you get scowled at, and you effectively need to ask permission. And if you're trying to drive down the road while they're doing their go-kart thing, and you sound the horn of the car, then they could spit on you or kick your car as you go by because you've they're not getting in your way. You're imposing something on them, and that's unacceptable. And their tribe has been disrespected, and these sorts of things. So it's a bit of an ordeal when they're there to deal with that. Fortunately for us, the bit of the street they took over is a few meters further up from where our driveway comes into the street. So we weren't directly trespassing on their territory as they would see it. But there was constant dramas, the police coming up and so on. The police are very reluctant to do anything because they're brown minorities. So if anything, the police may even accuse the white people of being overly precious and this sort of stuff. So anyway, now my quality of life's affected there. Any white person says their quality of life's being affected by third world migration is written off as being a racist, fascist, Nazi, xenophobe, bigot. Hitler, literally Hitler. But the reality is that I'm prevented from getting to sleep. If they do go inside the house and things die, they'll come back out again at midnight and they'll start all over again, or 1 o'clock in the morning and start all over again, hollering and making a noise. Now, this is not on Friday or Saturday where you might accept there's going to be parties. This is through the week. During the day, they're making a hell of a racket with this go-kart going up and down the road. They play various sports, and again they take over the road to do this, and they always seem to need to shout. They just can't talk, so they're shouting at their fellow tribesmen and playing sports, throwing balls around on the street and so on. Now, not far away there's a sports oval, but and it's suggested if they want to play these sports and take over the street, why don't they go down there where there's proper facilities? But again, this is an act of you're disrespecting us by doing it. So they're not going to go. Don't see why they should go. Why should we go? What, just because you say so? You fucking damn white, fucking Nazi, fascist, fucking Hitler racist. So they just say the street belongs to us, and that's just how they view it. And you have to work around them and so on. So now no one's telling them this is how you behave when you come to a first world country. And I've mentioned this one before, where there was quite a nice park across the road from this place we were temporarily renting while we were doing a contract in the downtown area of the city, and it had an outdoor gym and quite nice facilities there and so on. It was very nice quite peaceful to sit out there, and it wasn't far from a major highway, but it was the trees and the foliage. It was nicely done, and it was nice to sit there. And sometimes on a nice day, you might decide, I think I'll go out there and read a book, or something, that type of thing, or work out on the outdoor gym. But these again islanders were put up somewhere nearby, and quite a few of them, and they would descend on the park, and that park was theirs. If you wanted to try and use the gym, they'd spot you coming. So say there were half a dozen bits of gym equipment there, they'd spot you coming, and half a dozen of them would go over and sit on each bit of gym equipment and glare at you. If it looked like you were going to stop at and sit on one of the seats, they would run to occupy the seat so you couldn't. And just I guess so the park belonged to them. They used to leave a terrible mess, and again, urinating and defecating all over the place, trampling the flower beds and so on. So this affects my quality of life. The park, I expect that the park is there, a public park. I expect to be able to go there and be able to sit down there, or that a group of people descend on it at 11 in the morning and decide it's theirs until 10 o'clock at night. I say, excuse me, and anyone that tries to go in the park is effectively pushed out. Again, that's that park's just across the road from where I live or where I'm staying at the time, and that affects my quality of life. Now, I can go with sort of other instances, at another one where again there was a block of apartments, probably I don't know, 200 meters down the road. It was only like a 3-story block. It wasn't a tower block, and there was a bunch of these were Arabs got put in there, or from the Middle East somewhere. Actually, no, I think they were probably more Pakistan, something like that. And they were the same. They were, they were out on their porch until the small hours, shouting and hollering and screaming at each other. And given how much they were shouting, I assumed were they shouting at someone across the road or down the road? But they're shouting at each other, and they're on the same porch. They're a meter away from each other or less, and yet they're screaming at the top of their voices. I couldn't understand that. And so they were making this noise and playing music at all hours, and so I tried to explain it to them. Look, guys, do you mind? And because we have to sort of get to bed early and get up early, and yet you guys are making so much noise, you're waking us up pretty much every night. And they didn't see, well, why should we? This is how we live. This is how we live in our country where we come from. This is how we're going to live here. And if you don't like it, it's your problem, not ours. But no idea, no suggestion that they should adjust to the way of life in the new country they've come to. None whatsoever. No appreciation they've been allowed to come in. No appreciation they're giving all these freebie handouts. None at all. They're entitled to all of it. And the fact that the white people give them these gifts just confirms in their mind that white people must feel guilty for the bad things they've done to us. That's why they're giving us all these free things. And we should, instead of being grateful, we should actually double down and demand even more free things, which is how they think. But these are examples, and I could go on with other ones of examples of how my quality of life is affected by bringing these people in from the third world. Now, if they get put into education camps and shown this is how we live in this country, and there'll be penalties if you don't abide by it, and therefore they be that's different. But or some sort of induction, educational induction process. I mean, here's another one where there was a small sort of part of forest where just close to where these other third world people, and they were trapping the local tree possums and koalas, and they were putting them in a cage with savage cats and dogs and watching them be torn to pieces. And it wasn't far away from where we were visiting friends, and I heard this hysterical, because I know the sound, hysterical screaming of a koala, and then this noise, and then the cheering and applause of what were clearly third world voices. And I said to the people, "What's that?" And they just catch. They just catch the koalas in the forest, and for sport and for fun they watch again a cat tearing it to pieces. I say, "Excuse me, are you kidding?" And doesn't anybody do? We've complained to the authorities and they don't do anything, and so on. So again, the mere thought of this, that these protected and endangered species are being torn to pieces as sort of casual sport for third world people, because that's what they do in their country. If you're looking like places like Thailand and the like, they for sport they feed their dogs to the crocodiles and to the constrictor snakes and things like that. That they do it because it's fun, and they see that's kind of killing a few hours of boredom. I mean, that's unthinkable to us, of course, but to them it's so they they don't get this induction, and this is how we behave here. And so other things, like I was had to do my passport renewal a while ago. Just expired and needed renewing, and this mass of Arabs or Islamic people descended on the thing, and on the like the immigration department thing. And this was I wanted to do it over the counter because I needed the passport sort of quickly because I had to travel, and these armies of Arabs appear, and they just keep on pushing the button. So they'll claim the first 200 because it's you've got to have a ticket to be served. They'll just print out hundreds of tickets. So they've got the entire morning, if you like, just for their tribes and their brethren. So that means I can't use the immigration thing. They blocked it off for hours. So I went to and I saw this. So I went to the supervisor at the desk. Said, "Look, do you know what's happening?" He shrugged. "Oh yeah, we know what's happening." And too bad. Come back later. Again, that affects my quality of life. Going to any public service. Any public service group, there are so many people there that can't speak English, and they don't have enough interpreters. Going to the doctors, and I have to take an elderly and sick relative to receive medical attention on a frequent basis. But the amount of waiting now that we have to do, the number of doctors that don't speak English. How people who arrive that don't speak English are seeing a doctor who just speaks a different language and doesn't speak English. So you have to wait hours sometimes for an interpreter to be available. And I've got to keep my elderly relative who's close to incontinent, by the way, we have to sit around for hours waiting. I mean, it's crazy. So this all affects my quality of life. And so do I care about immigration per se one way or another? Well, no. But these things affect my quality of life. I don't want my quality of life affected. And if you can achieve mass migration or migration at all without my quality of life being affected, then I'm going to care a lot less about it. But because my quality of life is impacted and I have to make conscious decisions of where can I live and what can I do and how can I lead my life, where my quality of life is not being affected by I'm having to make allowances, which in itself is a reduction in my quality of life. So this is the wider discussion about migration, its effect on people. This thing of if you don't like it, you're Hitler, and that's not cutting it anymore. If you want mass migration, as in the globalists and the governments they control, well, fine, all right, but as long as it doesn't affect my quality of life. Now, as a kid, I had a sort of a short, brief window into this, going to a multiracial school, and I'd have been, 11 years old, I guess, something like that. A multiracial school that had a large influx of Middle Eastern Arabs coming, like around Lebanon, that sort of stuff, and coming into Australia, and their behaviour was quite astonishing. And I've mentioned, that they thought they were getting into punch-ups with the teachers. They were bringing flick knives to school. These 11-year-old kids, for fuck's sake, flick knives to school. Many of them smoked. And the police were around every day, with one of these Arabs. And maybe not all Arabs. There's a few Irish kids that were problems as well, but it was nearly all the Arabs. And they would do other things, like they defecate in the middle of the sports change room floor, and then they'd try and grab Anglo kids when they came in and push them into the turds on the floor, thinking that was like absolutely hilarious. I mean, talk about entertainment and enjoyment. The things I hadn't seen before in terms of the spitting and so on, the urinating and all that sort of thing. The very third world. I hadn't seen any of this before then, and so I was quite shocked by it. But it was certainly a window into cultural enrichment. So I have all the mass migration you like, as long as it doesn't affect the quality of life of the people already here. And if you can achieve that balance, then fine. But if you can't achieve that balance, then the mass migration has to stop. The idea that you can call everybody Hitler who doesn't like it, no. The mass migration has to stop. You've been fantastic today, your Pushback Channel. Thank you for listening.